Hi there. Thank you so much for joining me on the Is It Deferral or Discrimination podcast. My name is Alex Deslakis, and today I had the pleasure of interviewing two in-industry men who are really talented and very driven by what they do. Now we're going to be starting off with Geoffrey Devine. He's been a registered nurse for the last 25 years, specializing in trauma and emergency care. He began his career in the late 1980s and he kept his sexuality a bit of a secret for the first few years due to a consistent backlash that the LGBT plus community faced during the HIV/AIDS crisis. He did come out in the 90s where he felt more comfortable, and he claims it was a very rough time to be a gay kid. Now, was asking him why we're lacking equality and rights within blood donations, and he made this very interesting point. Let's go over to Geoffrey now.
I'm not quite sure there's been a lot of political will to pull back on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's an area that's got a lot of activism from our community either. I think we know of it. We know that it's one of the next order issues, but I don't think we've focused on it. We haven't protested about it. We haven't done anything much other than the odd online petition and follow up with the odd letter writing campaign. I don't know that it's got to that next level of heightened activism.
Why do you think that's the case?
I think it doesn't affect the whole GLBTI community. It doesn't affect lesbians. It doesn't affect women. I think there's been a later emergence of the smaller groups within the community, so the B, the T, the I within that, and it's an issue that variously affects people in that realm. But I think there's been a lot more around violence and equality and marriage that's have percolated to the top. And so I think they're the issues that we've focused on. And is this a first-order issue? It's funny that it might become a first-order issue if blood supplies fall off. And that's sort of a interesting twist in the tale if that's the way it goes.
Geoffrey also then alerted me to the fact that many other countries actually pay for people to donate, which I didn't know this was a thing.
It's a different style of blood collection here in that it's totally voluntary. Whereas in many other countries around the world, whilst it's voluntary, you do get paid for doing it. So there's a fee for service, particularly in the state. And the ups and downs of that model is, first of all, they probably get more donations, but you get more donations from people who want the money and therefore are desperate. And I don't know that that's a good model. And are they likely to be as honest in the screening tool if they're needing the money?
Quite some time into the interview now, Geoffrey also alerted me when I asked him the question, okay, who's the biggest risk group? It kind of just naturally came into the conversation that he alluded to heterosexual men that have sex with men but don't identify as queer or LGBT. And this hadn't crossed my mind at first, and it was very interesting what he had to say.
I mean, and the biggest risk group, as I understand it, is men who have sex with men who don't necessarily identify as gay. And so that's a tricky group because I don't want to impugn their integrity necessarily with regard to something like blood transfusion, but it's going to be more difficult for them to be open and honest in the screening tool.
Of course.
Particularly where, blood donation might be something that people do as a couple or as a family or, there are social constructs around it,
I hadn't thought of it like that. I just assumed people just went but I guess you could do it as a family or as couples. That does seem a bit odd to me, but I guess they want to do good.
Yeah, and so how are they going to answer that question?